What's going on, everyone? Today I want to talk about how to manage your calluses. And mine actually look pretty good right now, if you can see here. But normally they get torn up quite a bit. I also wanted to cover some preventative measures you can take, such as wearing gloves and whatnot, which I'm personally not a huge fan of. I mean, I can see why doing it sometimes makes sense. And I also wanted to cover the treatment methods that I use and I think are really great, and I've seen great results with them. So without further ado, let's get on with it. So first of all, I'd like to talk about the different straps and gloves and things like that that you can wear in the gym to help prevent calluses. So kicking things off, I've actually talked about these recently. These are weightlifting straps. Now these do help prevent calluses because when you actually put them on and you wrap them around the bar and whatnot, you're actually going to end up covering the bar where your hand would grip it. So you can pretty much cover your point of where your callus would be picking up just by wearing straps. Now that wouldn't be the main reason for wearing straps. The main reason would be to, I mean, for me it's to do overload work if I don't want to focus too much on grip strength, or let's just say my calluses have already torn up quite a bit and I don't want to keep tearing into them. I may put on some straps and it will definitely help them. So weightlifting straps are okay to assist in it, but their primary focus obviously isn't to help calluses. Moving on, we have regular lifting gloves. And these are pretty neat, and I used to use these back when I was doing more bodybuilding and a little less powerlifting. You know, I would do like 10, 15, 20 rep sets and supersets and all that bodybuilding stuff. Now, these are really good because they actually have straps, like wrist straps, on them. So you can see here, you basically just put the glove on, and then you wrap the strap around your wrist. So it's kind of like a two-in-one. It's pretty neat that way. And the benefit of these is that it does actually cover your calluses. It doesn't cover the point where you would be getting them. So now these do serve that purpose. Now, should you wear weightlifting gloves? We'll get into that in a minute, and it's typically personal preference. You know, I'll tell you about my preference when we get into it as well. But before we do that, I want to show you some regular weightlifting gloves that don't have that added wrist strap around it. So these here, Everlast, Standard, you know, again, these would prevent against calluses. So you know, they just have the typical leather or pleather or whatever it is protection right here. So you know, these definitely help as well. They just don't have that added strap to them. So they're just another method. Now we have a third type of glove. And these I do use pretty often, and I've talked about them before mostly because they're so thick. They're basically called, or they're called grip pads, and they're from bodybuilding.com. I think they're like $15. They're basically just like half gloves in a way. So you pretty much slide your fingers onto it like this. It doesn't cover your whole hand, but what it does do is give you protection against calluses. So it is quite helpful that way. Now, why I like using these is because I don't feel like my whole hand is being, you know, wrapped up in a glove, first of all. And second of all, it gives a little bit extra padding to the bar so that when you grip around it, you can see, I mean, I'm not sure if you can see closely, but it adds a little bit more thickness. So I have like a 1-inch bar. It may make it a 1.25 or a 1.5-inch bar once I actually grip it around. It's very similar to using fat grips, or there's a lot of other added accessories you can put on the bar to make the bar thicker and just make it more difficult to grab, which improves grip strength. So these actually serve a dual purpose. First of all, they help with calluses if I've already torn them open, and they help prevent calluses, and they also make the bar just a little bit thicker. And I don't know if that was the intention with these, but they tend to work quite well for that. So that's pretty much the options you have in terms of how to prevent calluses or how to manage to work out if you had calluses and you know they're hurting you, so you can wear those things. Personally, I say work out without gloves, period. I find it tends to build up a lot more grip strength. You tend to be able to get a lot more slack out of the bar when you're not using gloves. Just simply use some chalk. You know, in my opinion, that's going to be the best way to go. Yes, you're going to kind of end up with dry hands or torn up hands and whatnot if you go that route, but that's why we're about to talk about some treatment methods. So getting right into that, here is one method that I was using for a little bit, and it is cocoa butter. It works pretty well. And I'll actually open it up for you just so you can take a look at it. I mean, it's pretty straightforward inside. I can't really even see. So here, I'll take some out. Now, the benefit of this is, first of all, it smells great. I like it because it absorbs into the skin quite quickly, actually. So I'll just put some in here. A little bit of that. And So you can see, like, it absorbs pretty quickly into the skin. It's not too oily. It's kind of like a little bit more oily than a typical cream would be, but it's not so much so that, you know, your hands are just like, it doesn't soak in at all. Your hands are just shiny and glowing and all sorts of stuff like that. So this actually works pretty well. It has a lot of other added benefits. From my understanding, I think it works well on stretch marks and things like that. I'm sure there's tons of reasons to get cocoa butter outside of calluses, but you know what, it's worked pretty well for mine. So this would be the first ingredient I recommend using. If you have some at home, give it a shot. If you don't have some, you could go pick it up, but I'm going to show you something else that works much better in my opinion, and you should definitely pick that up instead of this if you don't already have it. And that is all natural shea butter. And it's important to get the all natural or the unrefined or the raw or the organic or the grade A or whatever the hell it's called. Get that one instead of just typical shea butter, because sometimes those have like added scents or added lotions, or they're like bleached or refined in some way. You don't want to go for those because they're typically not going to be as good for you as the straight up organic raw stuff. Now this stuff may cost a little bit more, not too much more than the typical one, but it's going to pay off in the end. Like it makes so much more sense to go that route. So let's just open this up and you can see in here. So this here, it's not so much a cream in comparison to the cocoa butter. See, this I can actually go like that and it won't fall out. The cocoa butter, I can do that and it's going to start spilling. So this is actually quite thick, much more thick than the cocoa butter is. But the neat thing about it, here I'll put some on my fingers so you can kind of see, and then I'll just actually apply some for you. The neat thing about it is it's actually much more oily than the cocoa butter. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. I find it soaks into the callus, it breaks through. Like if I build up a really thick callus that's going to peel off soon, it breaks right through that. And you're going to see what I mean by the greasiness. So I don't know if you can tell. My hands are basically like more shiny. It smells great. That's another thing. I mean, if you're gonna get cocoa butter, it's obviously gonna smell like that, like cocoa. But if you get the shea butter, you can get like shea butter with, you know, added stuff into it, like lavender. The one I have here is lemongrass. It's really nice. It's really fresh. But what I find with this is that it soaks into the calluses much better, and it completely gets rid of any of the dryness. Instead, like versus the cocoa butter. The cocoa butter, I still find like after an hour or two of applying it, I have to reapply it. So with the shea butter, I apply it and I don't even really have to apply it, at least not like until later in the day or before bed. So I find with this, it may cost a little bit more, but you're applying it much less and it soaks in much better. So it's definitely worth the investment. Beyond that, there's other benefits to shea butter that include help with acne, pimples, it's anti-aging. It even works well in your hair. So there's a lot of other uses and applications for shea butter that, you know, could come in handy if you're interested in that type of stuff. But otherwise, really, I'd recommend picking up yourself some shea butter, again, unrefined, and give it a shot on your calluses, because I think it's going to help you a great deal. And that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about today. It's all I wanted to share with you. It's just what I've been doing and what I found works for me. So let me know in the comment down below if you use anything for your calluses, or, you know, if you have any other methods that, you know, I actually find Epsom salt. If I take an Epsom salt bath, and I talked about that, you know, in many other videos, if you take an Epsom salt bath and then actually just get one of those scrubbers and just like scrub the callus a little bit in the Epsom salt, it works really well. Get out of the bath and then put on some shea butter and boom, you're good to go. So that's all I want to talk about today. Let me know what you're doing. Leave it in the comment section down below. Otherwise, I'll see you again next time. Take care.